All right, here she is. You first saw her on Brad Womack's first season of The Bachelor. Then she became our Bachelorette back in the day. Now she has a new podcast out called Famously Available. It is DeAnna Pappas. DeAnna, thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm not quite used to that yet. Like, oh, I was here, I dated, now I'm back doing yet another show about love.
I know. And we're going to get into that in a second. Though what's funny is I was like, I know, you came on the podcast in the past, but for some reason, I thought it was closer to like COVID time. So I was like, when was DeAnna on again?
I actually think it was a long time ago. I think it was before I was married.
It was, I looked it up. It was 2017. So you were married.
Oh, I was married.
Yeah. But
it
might have been, okay. I think I might have had you on before I had a podcast. It was like,
maybe that's what it was. Yeah. Cause I don't know that I've done your podcast.
Yeah. So you did it in 2017 and it was podcast number 32. This podcast today is number 459. So
look at us. Look at us.
Look at that.
Getting older and so much better.
You were podcast number 32 in 2017 because I started in December of 2016. So yeah, you were basically like 4 or 5 months in to my podcast.
I'll take it. You know what? Sometimes I feel like I get a little lost in the shuffle. There's so many people in Bachelor history now that, you know what? I'll take it. I was one of your early honors.
Yeah, very early on. All right. So let's jump into what is happening right now with you, which is you've got a new podcast and it's called Famously Available. It's hosted by Ben Higgins, but I want you to explain exactly what this is because when this initially came out, I was a little confused about what was happening on this. So I want you to explain to our listeners exactly what this is, where they can get it, how many times a week it's going to be on, and what it's going to entail.
Okay, cool. I'll share as many details as I can. So yes, you're right. Famously Available. It's hosted by Ben Higgins. So, I just love Ben. I'm not sure if you've had the pleasure of
I've met him, but he's never been on the podcast.
Oh, Ben is so great. You know what I mean? Like he's just, I always feel like I can just say he's very wise beyond his years. And just as a host doing podcasts, it's been really wonderful to see him grow in his craft over the years. Like even when we started doing Famously Available, he's just come so far as a host and asking questions and understanding the ebbs and flows of an interview, you know what I mean? And I know he's used to doing Almost Famous, and he's great at that, but it just has been, I swear to God, I'm everyone's biggest cheerleader, Steve. Like, I just like to see people do really well. And I think in a pool of a lot of people on this show, not everybody is your biggest cheerleader, but I love to see people thrive. I think the executive producers hold you back in a way. They like for whoever's the star of the show to be the most famous. They want to bring you on, they want to make you popular, and then they want to see you leave and not be heard of. You know what I mean? And so for me, I have lived a very normal life afterwards. I've gotten to do some really awesome things, but like when I get to see my people, you know, anyone from the show doing something really awesome, you know, a podcast, a show, Dancing with the Stars, whatever it may be, I'm just thrilled for everybody. I just want to see everybody do well and succeed. And you know what? If you can jump off with 100,000, 400,000 followers and never have to work a real job again, more power to you. Like whatever works for you. And so I'm super thrilled for Ben. I remember doing Almost Famous several times, and I've done several of the other shows. And just when we started doing Famously Available, I just think he's grown so much just as a person and as an interviewer. And he's a husband and a father, and he's really great at both of those things too. So it's really awesome to do a podcast with someone who gets it, who gets life, he's a Christian, you know what I mean? And he just has a really good outlook on life in general. And I also believe, I think I'm older than Ben, but I also believe that he has really good nuggets of strength and hope and advice. And I think that you can't learn those things. I think that just comes really natural to him. So anyway, he's really great. I'm really glad to do this show with him. And so when the opportunity presented itself to me several months back, it was just kind of like, hey, we'd like to see you have your fairy tale ending. Would you be willing to do this? And I was like, yeah, that sounds great, because there was a period of time when the show was kind of, The Bachelor, The Bachelorette was kind of, I guess, trying to re-navigate what to do. They've lost viewers, they've had change in producers and production, and the show is just different. I can't say that I watch it. I don't know if I'm just getting older and they're getting younger, or if I'm jaded by love. I don't know, but I have a hard time and struggle to watch the show now. And there was a time when they were trying to get back to the roots of the show a few years ago, and there was talks of bringing me back as the Bachelorette. And there were a lot of people who were like, I would love this for you, the full circle, to find love again, to be the lead again. Like, I would love this. And ultimately it didn't pan out for whatever reason. And so this idea came about to do a podcast. And for me, I just believe it is super smart on iHeart's part, because the franchise, The Bachelor, The Bachelorette, Bachelor in Paradise, there is such a wild following with this show. I still have people to this day who will message me and say, I've been following you from day one. And Steve, you know this as well as I do. That was 18 years ago? Like,
a long time ago.
I don't have that much time to invest in anyone else outside of my children. So I am always blown away and flattered by that. Just the dedication that the fans of the show have to stick it through this long. So I jumped at the opportunity. I clearly haven't done well on my own.
So is this show basically going to track your dating life? Is the show providing you dates to go on and then you come on the podcast and talk about them? Or is this just, you're going to find dates your own way and you're going to go on the podcast to talk about them?
Yeah, you're going to watch me go on dates. The show is going to find dates for me. I'm going to go on dates with eligible men. I'm not going to be finding them on my own.
Okay.
And I'll get to talk about it on the podcast. So really, and especially because you know this, I know it's just on the tip of your tongue and you can't wait to ask me, but a lot has transpired over the last few months.
It has?
And so, yeah.
me.
So the first few episodes are very much about catching up with us. And it's not just me, Mercedes, who's really beautiful. And I love the concept. And I almost wish that there was a dating show out there that would do this. So that's why I think the podcast, Ben, iHeart, Ashley, they're on to something. Like, let's watch people at different phases of life. Mercedes, I love. She's a doll. I think she's gorgeous. I think she's beautiful. She has a wonderful personality, but she's a solid, 15, 16 years younger than I am.
Yeah.
What she and I are looking for in relationships is very different.
Very different.
I have been married. I have had kids. That is no longer a priority to me, but it is for her. So with that being said, I think the show has this unique ability to allow listeners to follow people at different periods in their lives go through the dating process. Because for me, it's very different than what it's going to be for Mercedes. She very much wants that marriage and kids. That's where her life is leading her. And I no longer want that. And that's the good side of it, right? Then the other side is, with the age difference between the two of us, is I have endured heartbreak. I have gone through some very public, goodness gracious, some very public breakups, right? And that's not fun, Steve. Like, I will be the first to tell you. And this coming from a person who lives most of my life not in the media. I understand that I went on a show and that I put my life out there. And I have no regrets. I believe that that was my destiny to do that. I believe that that was my soul's purpose. And that put me in certain places in my life. But I can't put into words, I don't think, what it is like to live out those breakups with the media watching. And I'm not just talking about my marriage. I'm also talking about the situation with Jesse, who I chose on The Bachelor, and going as far back to Brad. I was so naive, but also knew that I was meant to be there. I can't say why that is, but I just knew when I went on The Bachelor with Brad, for whatever reason, that was exactly where I was supposed to be in that moment. Now, he didn't choose me. There I was, I sometimes see those photos of myself and I'm just standing there all young. And little fat cheeks with that one alligator tear pouring down my face when he broke my heart. And I still go back and think of that. Like, I have nothing but respect for Brad for not choosing anyone, but I was devastated in that moment. Do I think that we would have rode off into the sunset and lived happily ever after? Of course not. We're totally different people. It would have never worked. So looking back, I'm grateful that he didn't choose me. And then I became the Bachelorette, and then there was that breakup, and maybe it wasn't me with the crocodile tears, but someone else, but still that had to play out for everyone to see. And then I got married and then divorced. And it was not easy to put that statement out, that joint statement that Stephen and I were separating. That was not easy to do because people invest in you. The fans invest in you. They all are conditioned to want this fairy tale ending, right? And for the most part, that's what I portrayed on social media. But what I have said and gone back and looked at, my marriage was never perfect. I didn't hide that. I may not have shared the nitty-gritty details in respect for my ex-husband and respect for myself and the sanctity of our marriage. I kept that close to heart, and I will never regret that decision. I have 2 wonderful children who love me and love their dad, and they don't need to carry the burden of what went wrong.
Yeah.
So no one does that. No one goes on social media and puts that stuff out there. So in turn, everyone has got to watch me go through breakup and apparently a stint in jail too. So I'm doing so well.
So on this podcast, when you say we're going to be able to follow your dating life, wait, are cameras following you on these dates, or you're just coming back from these dates and you'll be able to talk about them on your podcast? And clearly the men know what they are getting into that are going to be going on dates with you.
I think so. So I believe as we do it, it's going to be a little bit of a learning experience.
Okay.
The guys will be a range of guys. They could be anyone who is completely normal, just a friend of a friend, or it could be a famous person. We don't know. We're all kind of exploring it as it comes. I do know that I have my first date coming up, and I'm really excited for it. I do know that he's somewhere around my age. He's, from what I know, which is not a lot, because there is the whole element of surprise when it comes to recording the podcast. I don't know a lot about him, but I know he's around my age. I think he's divorced, but he knows about me. There is a piece when you bring someone on, you say a normal person, they have to know kind of what they're getting into. And so, yes, there have been times where they have taken video so that we can use it for socials, or if there is the option to explore a larger format to be able to use video. I don't know if they will continue to do that, but I know we've done it in the past, and I'm all for it. I think there is a fun aspect to listeners being able to watch some of it as it unfolds. But yeah, I will go on dates. They're going to set me up on dates.
Is the first time you are seeing these men on the podcast or like, do you get to talk to them on the phone first?
My emotional support dog. No, I will meet the guys for the first time when we go to record. So what I understand is we will go on a date, we will meet, and in theory, if we can swing it, we will try to record some in the middle of the date and then some afterwards. I think we're all still trying to understand how it can logically work. So you guys will have to listen and learn with me as we do it. But the whole concept of the podcast is to follow us through dating. So it will not be like the first episode. I'm not sure if you listened, Steve.
I did not listen to the first episode.
What? I'm sorry. You're terrible interviewer. How dare you? The first episode was a lot of a catch up with me, and the same with Mercedes. Hers aired just a few days ago, and it's a lot of a catch up, and a lot for me where I am now, because again, I've been through a lot over the last 5 to 6 months. So it was a lot of where I'm at now, what I've gone through, and am I ready to date? And then a lot of what I would be looking for at this point in time in my life. And then for Mercedes, it was a catch up with her as well. You know, has she been dating? What is she looking for? What is the ultimate love that she would like to have? So in a sense, listeners are getting to know us all over again on a podcast.
So I wanted to hit on that real quick. In terms of your preference, I don't know how long. I mean, you've been divorced for, I believe you were married for 11 years, right? And you got divorced. I think it was finalized. I remember reading in 2024 it was finalized, right?
Yes.
Okay. So you got finalized in 2024. You've probably been on dates since then. But what is your preference as a mom of two? Are you only interested in men who have been married? Are you only interested in men who do have children? Older, younger? What are you looking for? Or are you open to pretty much anything at this point?
I think at this point in my life, such a loaded question. I am open to anything at this point. What I
Okay.
have tried to do is be very, very plain with what it is that I want.
Mm.
I do not want to get married again. If I find someone that I deeply care for and that I love, and it is really important to them, I am open to a conversation about it. I'm not closing the door on it. But I think you know as well as anyone else listening to us today, it was fucking traumatic for me. Like, it has been traumatic. The divorce process and everything that has transpired after has been traumatic. These were some of the lowest points of my life. I wish I had that story when you hear people say, oh, my ex and I get along so well and we go to dinner together and we share Christmas together. That's not my story. It's hard for me to be in the same room as my ex-husband. And I have to put myself first at this point and do what is best for me so that I can be a great woman and a great mother. So if it is something that is important to a man, I am open to the conversation, but it is not something that I am looking for. And then I have a hard pass on kids, Steve. I don't want more children. I'm going to be 44 in a couple of months. And I have two really great kids who I love. They're 9 and 11, almost 10 and 12. And I have no desire to start over. I don't want to be pregnant again. I don't want a newborn again. It's just not what I want. And with that being the case and being true to myself and stating that, I don't want to fully invest in someone that really wants that. That's important to them, because I can't fully give that to someone. And I don't want to get into a situation down the road where they say, oh, but thinking I'm going to change. I don't want to change for anyone. I'm exhausted with that. And so I believe that I need to be really clear when it comes to that. So I guess, long story short, I'm willing to date someone all ages. It doesn't matter, older, younger. I don't care. I just want them to be emotionally whole and stable and well, and I believe in reciprocity. And I believe that there is someone out there who will love me and accept me for who I am, good, bad, and won't constantly be threatening to leave me. So that's more of what I'm looking for. The rest of the stuff I can't say. If he's tall, dark, and handsome, over 6 foot, that would be a plus. I'll take that. But like the other stuff, I know for sure that I don't want kids. And if it's a 32-year-old and we mesh, that's great. But he's got to know that I can't give him that. And I don't want to.
What about blended family? What if he has kids from a previous marriage or just has kids? He's a single dad. Are you into
it?
You're fine with that?
Totally into it. Yeah.
Okay.
And honestly, I think it would make the scenario that much better, because then someone would understand what I'm going through.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I can't at this point put a man first. I am not willing to give up time with my children now that that time is cut in half. We share 50-50 custody. So if I'm seeing my kids Monday and Tuesday, and then I only have Wednesday and Thursday off, then someone has to be willing to see me on Wednesday and Thursday. At this point, without being emotionally invested in another human being, I'm not willing to leave my children for 3 hours to go and date someone. Now, if things progress and it's someone that I genuinely care about and I see a future with, then that's a different story. But I think the only person that would understand that, and while I'm doing this podcast, you know what I mean? The only guy that's going to understand that if he's coming on Famously Available is someone with children, to be honest.
Yeah, I was going to say, so as a divorcee with children, you say you're open to a lot of things, but is that more appealing to someone like yourself versus a guy that has never been married and has no kids?
Yeah, I think so. Just because, and again, I I haven't dated a lot. I've been on a few dates. I did the dating apps for a hot minute, and it's dirty out there, Steve. I don't know if you try it, but it is filthy. It's disgusting.
Yeah.
These kids are really willing to send
Everything
pictures nowadays. And I can tell you what I don't want are that. So
Yeah.
I've had the opportunity to go out with some younger guys, some 30-year-olds. They really, I don't know if it's mommy issues or they just like older women, but I have had the opportunity to date some younger men just a few times, but ultimately it comes back to the piece that like their end goal would be marriage and children. And I can't fulfill that for someone at that age. I have really enjoyed going out with men closer to my age and men who are divorced with children, just because we get it. We get it. I will never be offended if a man says, hey, I've got to bail tonight. My kids need me. By all means, go.
Yeah. Well, this was interesting because I did see a clip of you with, I can't remember her first name, but for some reason I remember her last name. Who's the Benjamin woman?
Kelly.
She's amazing. So, and you guys were talking, it's on your Instagram. You guys were talking about dating at the age that you're at now because she's a little bit older than you, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's just like, well, what do you do at that point in terms of what do you talk about? And I just wanted to get your, thoughts. Like, if you wanted to repeat what you said to Kelly, that'd be great as well. In terms of, hey, I don't want to be there on a date with you, especially a first date, and you're just trauma dumping on me about your ex. It's not a turn on. I don't want to hear about it. It's not very fun to listen to. So when you go on a first date, when you start, this famously available and you do start dating these men, what is the thing you want to accomplish on the first date? I mean, we all ask each other questions and everyone's going to have a past, but you're saying, look, don't harp on that past. I don't need all that. I'm not going to talk about mine. So I don't necessarily need to hear all about yours. I'm sure you have an ex. I don't need to hear every story and you calling her crazy, right?
Yeah, I think there's a time and place for everything. Okay. And the first date is just not one. So Kelly, I love, you're right. She's incredible. And she is just this 5'9" drink of water with those long legs. I mean, I just adore her. She has great hair. I just love her, love her. We did feel a little bit differently about it on a first date. I don't mind hearing, and maybe the difference is everybody can read about mine online. So maybe that's what's different for me, but I don't mind hearing like, hey, I have an ex. It's been slightly difficult, but I don't need a situation where someone is bashing their ex-wife, ex-husband, spouse, whatever that looks like to me. I have very few people in my life that I speak completely openly and candidly to about my life and the situation and what happened in my marriage. And those are people that I trust fully and wholly to love me and support me, to offer advice from an objective point of view. And also those people who can be completely non-judgmental. And I think that's the difference. When you go on a first date, second date, a third date, the truth of the matter is we're all trying to impress. I don't care if you're 27 like Mercedes or you're 43 like me. You want to impress the person sitting at the table. When dating, there is the whole handful of things you're looking for, right? Great conversation. Steve, I think you know me well enough over the years. I can get to know a flipping wall. Like I could sit here and you could shut your camera off and I could talk to you because I'm an egotistical human being, just as we all are. Great conversation is super important. And there has to be some physical chemistry.
Yeah.
It can grow slowly or it can hit you in the face, but you have to be physically attracted to the person that you are trying to date. There just has to be that physical chemistry. I don't mind hearing about someone's past because from my own perspective, there are pieces that mold us. I am who I am because of the things that I have been through and the things that I have endured, good and bad. Those make me, and they make, my makeup. They are who I am, the things that I have gone through. But there is no reason why I need to sit on a first date and trauma dump in great detail the things that I have gone through with my ex-husband, because I will say it here with you and I will say it to anybody else. There is always my truth, his truth, and the truth. That's just human nature. I will always have a perspective on how things went down for me, and I guarantee you he will too. And then there's the truth of the matter. And sometimes there's video footage to prove that, but that's neither here nor there. There is always two sides to every story. And ultimately, if it is someone that I am going to date, to have in my life, that I will eventually introduce to my children, they will also know my ex-husband. And I just don't need someone hating him on my behalf because I've tainted their perspective with things that went wrong in our marriage. Because what I am trying to get back to is that at some point in the beginning, I loved this man. I chose to marry this man. I chose to have children with this person. Unfortunately, things have gone awry in multiple ways. But I would love to, and my goal is to get to a place to have that peace again. And when I say peace, I mean PEACE, the peace for myself and the peace for my children. My children deserve to love their mother and love their father, and that's it.
So that's really good stuff. And we're going to learn more and more about you. We're going to hear about all these dates on Famously Available, which is available wherever you listen to podcasts.
Someone asked me recently, Steve, they were like, how in the world are you doing this again after the Bachelorette? And I was like, I don't know. I'm either nuts. Oh, wait, I'm nuts. No, I'm actually super excited because I don't know how else you meet someone this day and age. So when iHeart brought the opportunity to me, I honest to God, I didn't bat an eye. I didn't take a second thought at it. It seemed like a great opportunity to me. It's like being set up on a blind date every time. And that's what The Bachelor and The Bachelorette was to me. Some weren't great, some were really great, but that's neither here nor there. But I just found it to be a great opportunity to meet someone else. And if this turns into my greatest love, then so be it. Come join me for the ride. Listen every time. I'm thrilled to have everybody rooting me on along the way. And if it doesn't, it's a great opportunity to learn more about myself and partnership in the end run for myself, because I think that ultimately we are built for partnership and companionship. I do.
So the reason that you're in the position that you are now, which is single, divorced, is obviously you had an 11-year marriage and
12 to be exact.
Oh, was it 12? 12 to be exact.
Yeah, we were married over 12 years.
Okay. And then things were just going along. I think people, followed you on Instagram and whatever, and they would see updates of you and your family. But then back in February of this year, there was an incident that happened. And it was shocking for me to read. And did I send it to other people that are friends and be like, wow, this doesn't look good? Yeah, I did. Because I was like, I want to know more. And I'm not going to sit here and be on a fact-finding mission and ask you, DeAnna, what really happened that night? People can read about the incident, but I think what people need to know about the incident, because you might have read DeAnna Pappas arrested, because it was splattered all over the headlines and, accused of being drunk around her children. However, let's make it very clear. About a month later, 6 weeks later, it was revealed that all charges against you were dropped. Video footage showed what was reported back when all those headlines splattered is not what happened. So I wanted to get that out there because I know a lot of people probably have some sort of image in their head of what happened that night. And we're not going to go over. I'm not going to ask you, DeAnna, what happened that night. But from that incident, like you said, the last 5 or 6 months of your life has basically been turned upside down. It was bad enough dealing with a divorce. Now you're having your name splattered across headlines with essentially false accusations. So I just want to ask you, what can you say, not about that night, but everything since then and what you have learned, I don't know, about yourself, about the media, how certain things are portrayed in the media? What's the best thing that you have learned from the incident that happened back in February?
Man, yeah, that's a bit of a loaded question. I have always prided myself on being an advocate for mental health. So at every turn in my life, I have chosen to better myself. And, if that's through prayer, meditation, therapy, I've been very open about choosing therapy, and multiple times in my life, I've gone through a great deal of trauma in my life, way before I was ever even on The Bachelor and The Bachelorette. So I am an advocate for mental health and therapy, and I've chosen that at every turn. I've done Courtney's podcast, who I know you love also and adore, and I do too. And you know, when I was going through divorce, that's was truly just the darkest moments of my life. And if anyone listening hasn't been divorced before, it's grief on so many levels. I didn't just divorce my ex-husband. You know, that would be easy, right? Clean cut, you leave a man, done. I didn't leave him, but there's the whole family aspect. I loved his family, every last one of them, and at times chose them over my own. There's not just the grief of losing a spouse in this. Slowly over the last several years, I have lost his family as well. So at each turn, I have had to grieve, and divorce is loss. It is like death. There is a piece that you really have to process, good and bad. And I did that. I rode every wave. And when we were getting divorced, there was a point in time there where I noticed I wasn't okay. I was not okay. There was the day that Steven told me he wanted a divorce. And this was after other relational trauma in his family, that I chose to drink heavily that day, heavily on an empty stomach. And I woke up the next day and was like, I'm not okay. I am not okay. Like, I need help. And I put myself in a trauma center and went 3 days a week for 4 to 6 weeks because I knew I wasn't okay. I've never experienced any kind of mental health disorder, depression, thankfully. And I say that with the utmost sympathy and empathy for people who have. It just wasn't a part of my story until that time. And I had days during divorce that I just could not get out of the bed. If it were not for the children, I would not have gotten out of the bed, and I didn't understand. I did not fully comprehend what I was going through, and I was processing grief and loss and a great deal. And the other thing is, like, I live here and I'm surrounded by him and his entire family. So it was in my face all the time, the people that I loved who would no longer speak to me. And that was some of the hardest days that I've ever had to go through. So I put myself in therapy, and I've done it at every turn. I saw a therapist on the side outside of that for a long time. And then there were waves of getting better. And then there were waves of like really difficult things. So, gosh, going through what I've gone through over the last, I say this all the time, and I could probably date back every single podcast that I've ever done thinking, oh, I got over that hard thing. Like, finally I'm on the upside. And I swear to God, there's always something harder that comes along. And everybody says, oh my gosh, you're so resilient. Well, I'll tell you what, I'm really tired of being resilient and strong. I'm like really, really tired. I would love for someone to swoop in and care for me and love me and not leave. The incident in February, I'm just simply, you can read headlines and the proof is in the pudding. I won't begin to even try to understand his behalf. I can only take responsibility for myself and look back and think what I could have done differently. And I could have walked away from a situation where I felt unsafe, and I didn't do that. And I don't know if I could take that night back. Believe me, I could. Right? I'm sorry, if I could take that night back, I would. It is not something that I am proud of. It is not one of the highest moments of my life. And I remember leaving the next morning and thinking that I was angry for women everywhere that have to go to great lengths to prove themselves that they weren't in the wrong. I was in my own home. I was at my own house. I was arrested in my own home. I have since then done more therapy and I have chosen to give up alcohol. I realized that it was a complete crutch for me and an unhealthy coping mechanism. And I got to the point where I was out of control. I was out of control. I was drinking whether I was happy, whether I was sad, whether I was angry, whether I was celebrating. It didn't matter anymore. I was powerless over it. And so I came to the conclusion within myself that it no longer served me, and I decided to live a sober lifestyle, and that was by far one of the best decisions that I have ever made. And I haven't drank alcohol since then. And with that night, even though it doesn't matter the facts and what people read or my story or his story or what the truth of the matter is that happened that night, but several things have taken place since then that have just put into perspective to me that I have a lot of not yets. I have a great life. I have a great job. I have a great career. I have great kids. I didn't get my first speeding ticket until I was 40 years old. So you know what I mean? I have a lot of not yets, and I'm not willing to figure them out. And whatever I need to do to just continue to work on myself and get better is what I am willing to do. That's just plain as day. I want to be a great woman. I want to be a great mom, and I want to be a great partner someday. And that's what I do every single day. I pray for that, and I want that. And I hope that that's my end story. And I went back and forth for months, Steve, about whether I was going to share my story. And I know with the release of the podcast, there was the Us Weekly article, and I did finally speak about it because I went back and forth about sharing my side. And ultimately, after praying about it for a long time, I came to the conclusion that if my story, as ugly as it is, if it touches one person to choose their health, their mental health, sobriety for whatever reason, if it gives one person hope and strength, then that serves me. That's what I have, a servant's heart, and I want to care for and love others and love them well. And if what happened to me, my pain in my most broken moments of my life touches one other person, then that gives me peace. I hope that that's what happens.
And I'm guessing, I don't know, but I'm going to guess that ever since this story has come to light, the Us Weekly story, I got to believe somebody, that one person that you're saying, and it's probably more than one, has reached out to you and said, thank you for sharing your story. You don't have to say who it is or anything like that, but I'm guessing, have people reached out to you and said thank you for what you've opened up about?
Yeah. I say this all the time. I do read my messages. I read my DMs, and I read them all. I may not always respond, but it has been an overwhelming response to Famously Available, people who are super excited to watch me date again, which is just baffling to me, but I'm so thrilled to that, and to also just hear my story. And I try really hard not to hide things about myself, and there are some details that I protect simply for the sanctity of my ex-husband as well as my children, and some myself. No one needs to know the nitty-gritty dirty. Like, it's just not a good look. But I've received an overwhelming response, Steve, to a lot of women in particular who have messaged me and said they've gone through the same thing, or that they've been through a terrible divorce, or that in the depths of their pain, they drank too much. And I was so grateful for that, because I think as human beings, it is helpful to know that we are not alone. I don't believe that we're meant to do life alone. Hard things, good things. I believe that we are built to share that with other people. And, I think that a lot of these people have messaged me and said, thank you for sharing your story. But, I haven't been able to respond to everybody, but I'll say it to you, is like, they don't need to thank me. I am thankful for every last message that I get, that someone who says, I've gone through the same thing. I am grateful. That brings me joy and peace to know that I am not alone.
So you said that after your ex basically declared that he wanted a divorce, is that is when you really went hard one particular night, and you said you drank a lot. Was that the start of it? And from that point, you said alcohol took over. During that time, would you have considered yourself an alcoholic, a functioning alcoholic, or were we talking about when you say you drank a lot to cope with things? Was it just every night just wind down with a glass of wine? Or was it worse than that?
Yeah, so there was some relational trauma within Stephen's family, and I believe that kind of set off the notion of drinking heavily. Um, and I can look back and recognize that it wasn't just the drinking heavily. I was specifically drinking to numb. I was in a great deal of pain. And again, I only want to speak for myself because I don't want to dismiss how difficult it must have been for my ex-husband during that time to feel divided within his family. I cannot imagine that it was easy for him to feel divided within his family, who to choose, them or his wife. And at that point, we were at a crossroads. So I started to drink quite a bit during that time, and I have no problem saying that, like, on some nights, I drank to fall asleep. I drank to stay asleep. I drank when I couldn't feel safe. I drank in my sadness to stop crying. I did not know. I didn't have the tools for healthy coping. I did not know. And that is probably that time in my life leading up to divorce and announcing that we were getting a divorce is the most alone that I've ever felt in my whole life. And something that I have said many times is, looking back, if I could do it again, don't do what I did. I tried to do it alone. I tried to keep it a secret. There was only one or two people that knew how bad it truly was for us. And that was really, really awful. I hid it all, and I hid it really well. But I know now, after thousands of dollars worth of therapy, I have been conditioned my whole life to keep others' secrets. I've done it my whole life. When my mom was sick, to keep her secret because she didn't want people to know she was dying. You know, I had an abusive stepmother, to keep that secret so no one knew how bad it was. The secret of the Bachelor, the secret of the Bachelorette. It didn't matter what I felt and what I was going through, but that I was conditioned to keep those secrets because that was more important. And I did myself a disservice. So the times that were really difficult in my marriage and the struggles and the depths of the pain, I kept those a secret. And it was a disservice to myself because I hit a point before I knew it that I was dying on the inside. I was dying on the inside because I couldn't keep the secrets anymore, and I didn't know how to make them stop, and I didn't know how to feel better. And I was dying on the inside. So in that time before we got divorced, I drank a lot. I drank a lot. But, you know, so yeah, I looking back now, I would say I just, it's hard. It's hard to look back and live in the past because I can't change it. And it obviously got me to a point where I needed to be, and everybody's life is different. And I have a really high low. Like, I don't have any DUIs. I hadn't killed anyone. I hadn't done a lot of those things that other people have, but it was low enough for me. And I don't want to figure those things out. I don't.
So after the incident, everything that was, going on in the courts and dealing with a divorce and dealing with this and custody battles and stuff like that, I think the biggest thing, and I think that I didn't know, and what I was, I guess, most curious about is, how did this affect the children? Do they see the headlines? Do they ask, Mommy, what was this? What happened? Where did you have to sit them down at some point and explain, Mommy was drinking too much, Mommy's going to stop now? Like, where is it with your kids now that what have you had to discuss with them about everything that's happened over the last 5 or 6 months?
Yeah. Something that we have done really well is we've always been on the same team when it comes to the children and their well-being. And we have.
Oh, your video went out. Let me pause.
So we've done a really good job of always putting the kids first and protecting them the best that we possibly can. So they don't have, they don't have social media or do any of that stuff. And I have also worked really hard to protect them from some of that stuff because they just don't need to read it. Yeah, I have really age appropriate conversations with the kids. Addison is a little bit older, so sometimes she has more questions than Austin, but I have age appropriate conversations with my children about things that have taken place. They know that I do not drink alcohol. I don't keep it in my home, but they also know that it's totally normal for adults to drink alcohol if they choose to do so, but that I personally choose not to drink alcohol, and that's the lifestyle that I want to live. So yeah, I think it just depends on what's going on. I just really guard and protect them as children and believe that they deserve that right to do that. And I still stand firmly in that, like, they don't get to carry my unhealth or his, for that matter, that they get to be kids. And I go to great lengths to protect them and to preserve their emotional well-being at great costs.
How has the co-parenting been going?
It's going. I think I'll skip that one.
Okay. So, not that you and look, there are some people that co-parent great and they get along with their ex, and it was just like, hey, we were married for X amount of years and we just realized it didn't work.
Co-parenting. I think that Stephen and I think that we have a great desire to be good co-parents for our children. And so whatever we can do to continue to work towards that end goal, I know that I will try my best.
And it's possible that you can, it's possible you guys not to get along and never really be close ever again, but you can still be good co-parents to your children.
Yeah. And I think that we both have that desire to be great co-parents for children. But, that's the difference. Divorce is hard enough as it is, but then you add children to the mix. Most people break up and they get to walk away from a person and they don't have to engage with them or see them ever again. And unfortunately, I don't get that luxury. We share children. Therefore, we have to be able to communicate in the best interest of our children. And that would be my goal.
Do you think you'll ever drink again?
No, I do not. I don't. I look back actually, and the amount of research that I have done on alcohol alone, just that piece, that it is a poison, what it does to your brain. And to be honest, I wasn't a big drinker when I was younger. I actually didn't ever start drinking until I was 21 years old. I honestly wish I never did. I wish I never did. It is a poison, and in comparison to crack cocaine, like, I can't believe that we make this a normal thing for people. So just like on a health perspective in general, no, I hope that I never, ever consume alcohol ever again. I want to be the healthiest version of myself, both physically, mentally, and emotionally. And that just gets in the way of that.
Well, I know you got to run. You're getting contacted by the school and whatnot, and you got to go pick up your kids. But DeAnna, thank you so much, honestly, for coming on and talking about this stuff. I know it's not easy, and I know you've done a few interviews recently. And when I texted you, I was like, "You got one more in you? Can we talk about it? Because I want my audience to hear. Because I want
always for you, Steve. Always for you.
Well, thank you. So you can check her out on the Famously Available podcast, where you can follow her dating life. DeAnna, again, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it. And obviously, we're rooting for you. Good luck with everything, and we'll be in touch.
Thanks, Steve. I appreciate it.
You got it.